saved by the death of Christ, we are also saved by the life of Christ. As our life grows into conformity and alignment with that higher life, that saving kind of life that God gives to us because of our connection to Jesus, our alignment with Him, our identification with Him, our attachment. You know how you attach files to your emails? In the same way, your life is attached to Christ. You know, you attach a file to an email, and wherever that email goes, that file goes with it. In the same way, in baptism, your life is attached. And so wherever Jesus goes, you're with Him. That's what Jesus said. Wherever I am, there will my servants be also. That's how Paul can say we have been raised up and seated with Him in the heavenly places in Christ. You see? And so that cryptic part, that hidden part, is being revealed to us as we read the Scriptures, as we grow into this life. And there's a gradual unfolding day to day. And so now I hope you understand why I like this passage so much. This little short passage is so packed with meaning. Now, we'll come back to it in a moment, but I'd like to use an illustration that I discovered recently when I was doing my soap. So that's the first time I hear that word, but I do practice that very good method. And I happen to be in Nahum chapter 3:16, and again, this is from the New Revised Standard Version, so if you look at it in your translation, it will be different, because you know, there's some Hebrew words that the scholars, you know, they have different ways to translate, and this is one of those passages that could be translated in a number of ways. But before I take a journey, you know, relating to this passage, I've got to make it very clear to you that this passage has no relationship to Colossians chapter 3, verse 14, 3 and 4. I am simply using the image here. And in fact, the passage is about judgment. If you look at the context, it's a passage about judgment. And you know, and so I'm just sort of taking the passage out of its context, but I'm letting you know that I'm doing that. I'm not interpreting this passage. I'm borrowing its poetry and its image, the image of the locust. Now, the picture you see is really not a locust, it's a cicada, or you might pronounce it cicada in Asia. But they're also called locusts, and some people do call them locusts. And I grew up calling these locusts. So for today, this is a locust. So get that in your head. And this is how the passage reads, and that's what caught my attention when I was doing my soap a few weeks ago. It says, the locust sheds its skin and flies away. It's a beautiful image. And it's the image that's related to Colossians chapter 3, as we will see as we go along. But I'd like to explore this locust a little bit later. I mean, for now, for a few moments. I grew up on a farm in the southern part of the United States where we actually have these locusts. And what you see there is the shell, the empty shell that the locust has left behind after he shed his skin and flew away. And, well, I think so. It looks very full to me, but I think it's an empty shell. Maybe full, maybe before the guy flew away. Maybe you can click, it's supposed to go automatic, but there's another one. You see there's a little slit on the back. I'm not sure if he's come out yet or not, but go to the next one. And then this one is definitely empty. It's wrinkled, you can kind of see through it. And we used to find these on the trees just like that, all around the farm. And we would collect them, and we would play with them, and we would make little armies or little buffalo herds, you know, arrange them on the ground. And you could take it in your hand, and you could squeeze it, and it would crumble into 1,000 flakes, and you could just blow them away into the wind. Just a shell. And we were so intrigued by this. Now, let me tell you about the life cycle of this creature. The egg is laid into the bark of a kind of a rotting branch near to the ground. And when it hatches, it becomes a nymph. And it crawls down into the ground. And it lives there for 17 years. Underground. 17 years. And this is what, in my mind, helps me to understand Colossians chapter 3 about that hiddenness. We are like this locust, you see, this present form of our existence. We are just tunneling around down here. You know, we dig MRT tunnels all over Singapore. You know, and we go from tree to tree and we suck the sap from these roots, you know. And we get tired of the oak tree, we go to the pine tree. And when we get tired of the pine tree, we mix the two and we make root beer. And so here we are under the ground, 17 years. But, you see, this is not our true destiny. This is not our true life form. There is a life inside of us that is just waiting to grow, to mature. And, you know, this guy, in fact, he's got to shed his skin several times during those 17 years under the ground because, of course, he grows. And so he's got to put off that old skin and then grow a new one that's slightly bigger. And he goes through this a few times. But then, after 17 years, he gets an idea to go up. And you see, he's got those big front claws, and he can dig those tunnels, you see. And he's been digging tunnels underground 17 years. And then he starts changing his direction. He starts tunneling up. And he's never seen the sky. But something tells him he's got to go up. And then he goes and he comes out of the ground and he climbs this tree. And he attaches those strong claws to the tree. And then he begins to wiggle inside that shell. And you can actually go on YouTube and you can actually see this, and it's in fast motion, so it won't take you all day. But even in real life, it happens very fast. My brother caught one of these in the act one day, and he brought it into the house so that he could watch it. Unfortunately, I came late. When I came, he was already out of the shell, but his wings were growing, and you can actually see, you know how you can look at the needle of a clock? You can't really see it moving, but, you know, you look away and you look again and it's in a different position. It's moving, you see, and that's how it is in those wings. First they're attached close to his body, and you can actually see it on the shell where the wings were. But now that he's out, you know, there's a point where those wings just kind of begin to, they just fold like that. And they're all wrinkled. Like if you take cellophane paper, plastic wrap, you know, from your what you call it, you know, those mints that you eat, you know, those hacks. You know, it looks like a hack's wrapper all wrapped up, but then it starts straightening out. Then it gets straight, and it's all wrinkled. But then somehow all the wrinkles disappear. And then that guy spreads out his wings and says, I believe I can fly. And then he knows what he was made for. And those 17 years were worth it all. But those 17 years, they were just a process leading up to this day when he became what he was supposed to be, when he realized his destiny and spread his wings and flew away. Hidden, revealed. Your true life, I mean, you're not going to be a locust under the ground forever. You're not going to be crawling around digging tunnels.